Welcome, eternally disappointed family. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm actually filming it on Monday. I feel like there's too much stuff to talk about to wait another day to film. We do have a game tonight that I'm probably going to be talking about tomorrow, no matter what happens. But I did want to I have so much to say about not just what happened with Buffalo, but just what happened in general this week. Once again, it seems as though this is a very parodied league. This season. It seems as though you never know which way is up with any team. There's no guarantees week to week, which is how it should be. And it definitely makes football more enjoyable. Getting right to it, the pathetic attempt at a football game last Sunday night. It was hard to watch. I actually went to bed at halftime. I couldn't stand to watch anymore. Buffalo beating the Giants 14-9. And it came down to an uncalled pass interference call. And Buffalo just does this sometimes. They just come out flat and have terrible games. Games they should go out there and blow the opponent off the field by halftime. And they just didn't do it this week, yet again. So they travel to England 4 days later than they should have to get their asses kicked by a team that they're clearly better than. And they come back to the States, and for some reason they have no fire this week. Buffalo looked terrible last night. Buffalo looked like their coaches didn't prepare 1 minute for the game. And I just want to show you what Buffalo's offense looked like last night. So here we go. First drive. Pass to Diggs incomplete, pass to Diggs incomplete. Okay? So let's go to the second time they have the ball. All right? 2-yard run. Pass to Diggs. 2-yard run. Pass to Davis. Incomplete ball thrown out of bounds. And then the fumble by Davis, which I'm going to get back to Gabe Davis in a second. The next time they had the ball, okay? So Murray runs the ball first. All right? Incomplete pass to Diggs. Pass to Diggs for no gain. And then an incomplete pass and a punt. Next drive. Pass to Diggs. Incomplete to Diggs. The longest false start in the history of false starts by Diggs. Okay? And then incomplete pass to Diggs. And then a punt. Let's go to the next one. 14-yard run, 14-yard run, 3-yard run. Okay. It looks like we finally got our heads out of our asses and realized that we can run the ball. And also, we don't have to pass to Diggs every single time. And then, incomplete pass to Diggs, incomplete pass to Diggs, missed field goal. Let's go to the next one. Okay? Incomplete pass, it doesn't say to who, and I can't remember because I was probably already asleep. All right? Penalty. A penalty. A false start at home on Sunday night. Incomplete pass to Davis, but there was a penalty. Okay? And this is when Kyle Allen had to come in for a couple of plays, and then Allen returned, and I think it was like a quick 1-yard run. And then what do we have? Pass to Diggs, and then an intercepted pass that, if I'm not mistaken, it was tipped. The second half, they scored a couple of times, but just to put it in perspective, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Giants 40-0 in New York on opening night. And just last week, Miami hung 31 on them. And for some reason, Ken Dorsey doesn't realize that you can run the ball and there are more people to throw to than just Stephon Diggs. One of the critiques I had about this team is we don't have like a pure slot receiver. They tried Beasley a couple years ago and had like mild success. But they don't have like a really good slot receiver the way that Brady always seemed to have one. What they do have is two really good tight ends. They have Dawson Knox and they have Dalton Kincaid, DK times 2. So going into the season, what I realized is this team is going to have 2 receivers outside and a lot of 2 tight ends that are dangerous in each of their own ways. And when one of them isn't playing and the other one's playing but not healthy, you kind of get stuck to who you can throw to. I'll be honest, I think Hardy he looks really fast. It might be because he seems short So he's taking more steps than tall people because tall people can take longer ones. But he seems like he could eventually fill that void nicely and become a nice slot receiver, or he's just going to be a fast guy that's a special teams guy. Regardless of that, the Giants had a ton of penalties on offense. The Giants were playing with a bunch of what looked like undrafted free agents on their offensive line. Buffalo, I'm not going to be sitting here praising their defense because it's not like the Giants' offense has done much anyway. But for Buffalo to go out there and put that stinker on Sunday night after the pathetic performance they had in London a week prior, it just goes to prove my point that this is, once again, a talented but undisciplined and poorly coached team. And I don't know if Buffalo fans are ever going to start to realize and do things to hold this team accountable and hold the ownership accountable, but changes need to be made. This team is not going to win the division. You're not going to beat Miami again playing like you played the last 2 weeks. So as much as I think Nick Wright is a fucking idiot that should be nowhere near sports, he's got this one because he always says the Bills are the champions of October or September, and then once October rolls around, they just blow away like dust in the wind. And it looks like they're on pace to do that again. For some reason, this team can't seem to stay healthy at an average rate, and I don't know why. Maybe they have a poor training staff. Maybe the coaches ride them too hard. Maybe their nutrition is off. Maybe they're not properly hydrated, which is one key to keeping your joints loose and with the ability to move and shift without hurting yourself. But once again, penalties for no reason. You shouldn't have false starts at home, especially when you have a seasoned veteran like Brown, or Diggs running a 50-yard false start like an asshole. And the team just does it every week. But Sean McDermott's a disciplined guy, right? Because he was a wrestler, so he's a disciplined guy? I don't fucking think so. Sean McDermott is a guy that had the luck of coaching Buffalo when they were the most talented team in the league. So he looks like a really good coach. And instead, he's got a quarterback that can't seem to not throw to anybody but one guy. He can't not throw interceptions every fucking game. An offense that always gets penalties, a defense that makes dumbass decisions, and a talented team that's once again going to disappoint their fan base because they're just going to mess things up. And I wonder how long it's going to take for the fan base to realize that the window is going to be closed. They're going to be riding every season on the hopes of what they were 3 years before, and then one day wake up and be like, man, this team sucks. I'm going to use that to transition to the next team I talk about, which is the Tennessee Titans. Now, I said last season they should have fired Vrabel because Vrabel chose not to fire their offensive coordinator when they couldn't score more than 13 points in, I think, 6 of their last 7 games on a 7-game losing streak, costing them the division and a chance at the postseason. Vrabel said that it would do no good to fire their offensive coordinator. And then when the GM gets fired and the offensive coordinator gets fired, for some reason Vrabel stays, which I'm going to tell you why in a second, and then he just promotes somebody from within. So you didn't want to fire the guy because you thought it would make no difference. Instead of getting rid of him and promoting the guy that you're going to promote anyway to see if he can make a difference and do things in a better way. And now you just gave the guy the job and he's not doing anything better. And every fucking time the Tennessee Titans get 2 first downs and then they get either a holding call or a bullshit false start penalty, they always look over to Vrabel. And Vrabel is standing there with his arms crossed and his headset with the microphone up and that stupid snarl on his face. But he just stands there. He's 6'5", 275 pounds, and he just stands there while his offensive line commits stupid fucking penalties that do nothing but disrupt the drive, and Vrabel says nothing. If I was 6'5", 275, I'd go put my foot in his ass in front of 80,000 people in the stands and millions of people watching home and embarrass that motherfucker to make him feel such shame he would never want to commit a fucking false start ever again. But Vrabel doesn't do that. You know why Vrabel doesn't do that? Because Vrabel is not a guy that can coach offense. And I've said repeatedly, defensive-minded head coaches cannot win championships unless they have a very unique, awesome quarterback that can pretty much run an offense for them and go out and have success. The problem with Tennessee is they're stuck in purgatory. And in football, there's two types of purgatory. You can have head coach purgatory, or you can have quarterback purgatory. The Cowboys right now have a quarterback purgatory. They have Dak Prescott. I don't think Dak Prescott is bad, but I don't think he's that good. He's just purgatory. He's just a guy that, yeah, you can replace him, and you can make an argument to replace him, but you don't know because you can't guarantee that the guy replacing him is going to be any better. When they had Jason Garrett as their head coach and Tony Romo as their quarterback, that was tons of purgatory because Tony Romo was good enough to keep them relevant, not good enough to win them a championship. Dak Prescott is good enough to keep them relevant, not to win them a championship. But they don't want to run the risk of not having Prescott and drafting a guy like Mac Jones, who's really not going to get you a championship. So the Tennessee Titans have a situation where they have a head coach who's defensive minded, but his defense isn't performing up to the standard that they should be. And the team does nothing but dumb shit, bonehead plays, like muffing a punt at the end of the half. The only reason they scored one of their touchdowns yesterday is because after the receiver dropped the ball, the safety came over and hit him helmet to helmet. And I think the reason they ejected that guy is because Tennessee would have sent crossing routes over the middle and taken that dude out the next chance they got. So I don't think they ejected that dude from the game because of the penalty. I think they didn't want him getting retaliated on and you running into a perfect and Antonio Brown situation. But back to the Titans. They're a bad team. They are mismanaged. They are poorly coached, even though I think Vrabel is a good coach. He's not the good coach for that system. He needs to go somewhere else where he can make more of an impact. He needs to go find a team that has a prolific offense and needs help on the defensive side, and then he will coach them to a championship. But I'm not letting him off the hook. The job he's done in Tennessee is awful. I don't mean as a whole, I just mean the last couple of years, because they are very talented. And where they lack talent are areas that he should have addressed, and he didn't. So their wide receiver core isn't really that good, even though they have Hopkins. Their pass blocking is not good, and now their secondary seems to be slacking as well. So Tennessee Titans fans need to come to the understanding that your window is closed. Same with Buffalo. But the difference is with Tennessee, they need to start rebuilding mode. They should start getting rid of assets, collecting draft picks, and moving forward on that. Other big news coming out from yesterday's game, because there's just so much shit. Yesterday's games, because there's so much stuff. 49ers lost to the Browns. They shouldn't have lost to the Browns. What they did was they got caught admiring their work. In boxing, when you land a really hard punch and it's nice and clean on somebody and you feel it, sometimes instead of doing what you're supposed to do, keeping your hands up, moving backwards, getting a defensive position, and expecting a counter, some guys will clock you and they're like, oh man, I hit him really hard. And they want to look. They want to admire their work and see if they hurt the guy. And then when they're least expecting it, the dude counters them because the dude just took the shot and fired right back and caught you admiring your work. I remember until Friday last week, podcasts were coming out and different 49ers players would be guests on different people's podcasts talking about the fucking Dallas game. If I'm Kyle Shanahan when that game is over, I'm telling my players right away, you better get all your interviews and say anything you have to say about this Dallas game done on Monday. You need to come in and get your massages and get your fluids and do your stretching and do a little bit of lifting for people who may not have played that much. And then go do whatever media and podcasts is included with media. And after Monday, I don't want to hear a fucking word about the Cowboys game because we have a Cleveland team that we have to travel to in bad weather and play. And you can tell the 49ers just got caught admiring their work because of the beatdown they put on the Cowboys, went and played in bad weather, and a bunch of bad stuff happened. They were still in field goal position. It's unacceptable for a fucking professional fucking kicker to miss 2 field goals in one game. What do you do all day? What do you do all day at practice? You should be able to make those kicks blindfolded. But I have a feeling kickers slack a lot in practice, and punters slack a lot in practice, and missing, I think it was a 41-yard field goal. That's unacceptable. Complete bullshit. They should have beat the shit out of that guy on the way home for missing not one, but 2 field goals in the game when one of them would have won you the game. So San Francisco probably learned their lesson, and they're probably going to make somebody pay next week. The Eagles, I think they got caught looking forward to Miami because I think they looked at the Jets as an easy win, didn't take it serious. They were looking forward to Miami, and they got caught up in a defense that could make them pay, and that's exactly what happened. So once again, it goes to show you that you can win on talent alone, but sometimes you need to do the extra work to make sure those victories happen. And that's exactly what happened with the Jets and the Eagles. And the 49ers just got caught admiring their work. But you live and you learn, you move on. Tonight's game is Dallas and the LA Chargers. So one of the interesting things about this game in particular is we get to find out if the Chargers are that team or they're not. Because the last at least 5 years, that division has been owned by the Chiefs. Completely owned. To be honest, I don't know how the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year. I didn't think that their team was that good. And they still did it, which is attributed to their coaching and to Mahomes and a lot of other things that go into it. This season, I don't think the Chiefs are good. I think they've had an easy schedule. I think they've played a bunch of bad teams, and the one good team they played, they got beat. I think if I'm the Chargers, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, if we really want to be the team, if we want to be that guy, those guys, if we want to be this fucking team that stands up and says, no, this is our division, this is our year, then it starts tonight. I don't think the Chargers are that good. I think most people think the Chargers are good because they're always super overrated in Madden. Like in Madden, you can't stop Austin Eckler, and I can't figure out why. In real life, I think the Chargers are the team that blew a huge lead in the playoffs last year, which I think will still come back to haunt them. But truth be told, as much as I hope that the Chargers come out and put a 40-0 ass whooping on the Cowboys, I don't think they will. And I think they're going to fail this test. The same way they failed the test against the Chiefs last year by throwing a pick six, I'm super hungry and my stomach's growling, and I'm wondering if the mic picks up on that. That'll be an interesting thing to look forward to when I rewatch this and get ready to post it. I don't think the Chargers are going to do it, but I hope they do. I have a feeling Dallas is going to come out. And Dallas is one of those teams that if a couple things go their way early, it's like they feel unstoppable and they go get it. But once Dallas faces resistance, that's the key. And that's the thing with a lot of teams this year. Like, Dallas hasn't beat anybody good. Miami hasn't beaten anybody good. Miami beat the Chargers, and I don't think the Chargers are any good. But we'll see tonight. Miami's playing Philly. Miami fans are as insufferable as Dallas fans because the problem with Miami fans is whenever Miami is 8-8, you can't find any of them around. It's not until they look like they're really good that all Miami fans seem to pop out of nowhere. And I don't think Miami's beat anybody good. You know, they come off of wins against the garbage Giants and the garbage Panthers after being down 14-0. And it's like, okay, we must be amazing. No, you're not that good. Congratulations, you beat the Patriots. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how Miami does against Philly because Philly hasn't been playing to top form. But the worst thing that could have happened for Miami was Philly losing yesterday. Miami should have been hoping Philly beat the shit out of the Jets because then I think it would have been an easier game for Miami. Now Philly realizes, like, oh, we can be beat. Now we're going to have to focus. So that'll be interesting next week. Like I said, as for tonight, and I think after this, Dallas has a bye and then they play the Rams. The Rams, once again, are a team that a lot of people talk about because of Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald not realizing there's 51 other players on the team that need to do their work to make it go. I don't think the Rams beat the Cowboys either because it always seems like the Rams have trouble with the Cowboys. It always seems like the Chargers get right to the step where they could look like, oh, we're going to be a good team by beating good teams, and they fall down. And I think the Chargers lose tonight. But I hope I make a video tomorrow talking about that game, enjoying a Chargers victory. But I don't have any expectations. Speaking of no expectations, I have no expectations of Buffalo either. 14-9 with the referee's help against a bad Giants team is one of the least acceptable things that I can think of as a Buffalo Bills fan. But I don't consider myself a Bills fan because I'm not a fanatic about them. Fan being short for fanatic, which is where they came up with the term. I have realistic expectations that they're just going to let me down or underperform or do something to blow the game, which is why I've been eternally disappointed. So hope my rant didn't go too bad. There were other games yesterday, but these are the ones that I really wanted to touch on. I'm not going to talk about the 29-0 Colorado blown lead and all that stuff. I didn't hear much narrative from people about, blaming racism or other idiot reasons that the team lost. I think they just went to halftime. We're like, yeah, we got this in the bag, and then everyone just kind of relaxed. And that one guy from Stanford went off. He's from Canada. Not many people have ever heard of him. Now everybody's going to know his name, and that guy's going to be quadruple covered next game. So congratulations to them on that. Big UFC this weekend. Big UFC. If I have time, I'm going to do a breakdown of how I think the fights are going to go. But Chimaev and Usman, I am super excited for. And Volkanovski and Makhachev, which sucks again for me because I like both guys and I hate when two fighters that I really like compete against each other. But I'm happy for Volkanovski to get this chance again because I think if anybody deserves a rematch at any weight class, it's that dude. Because he's so good and because he pushed Makhachev right to the limit last time. And it's 50-50. Half the people think Makhachev won, half the people think Volkanovski won. I think Makhachev won, but I think he barely won. And I could honestly make a case every time I watched the fight that Volkanovski did win. It was just so close. I just thought Makhachev had a little bit of control. It's going to be a sick fight regardless. Chimaev and Burns is going to be a sick fight regardless. So I'll hopefully do a little bit of a breakdown and predictions on that. If I had time, I would actually record a video on the techniques of what's going to be successful for each guy, but I probably don't have time this week. Moving forward, that's something I definitely want to add to my video series. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow night after the game. Take care.